Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 3 today for the Monaco Grand Prix. Very early in this series for a very big race, usually the jewel in the Formula 1 calendar. Monaco, we usually have to wait till episode 5 or 6, but of course with this year's game, with some missing circuits from the real official calendar, Monaco is actually round number 3 in the current career mode and game. So here we are, it's time to go to a very difficult circuit on a new game, 3 races in. What could possibly go wrong? This is going to be a challenge, I think, because usually by Monaco, there's enough time to settle into the handling and whatnot, whereas now, I don't feel like I'm on top of it at all. I'm still learning new things about the handling and the best way to go about things every single lap. So Monaco is going to be interesting, but you may have seen at the start there, eagle-eyed of you, that we have a different livery. Obviously, we've got a couple of new ones now because F1 2021 is now officially launched for all of you guys with the deluxe edition. So now I've actually got some more liveries to choose from, with the podium pass also beginning in the game. There's actually this really cool shadow livery, which is like, I think it's literally like there's no reflections of it, which makes it look really odd but also really cool in a way. So might need to test the waters with that livery at some point. But anyway, in terms of changing the livery, because it's Monaco, it's the first season, very special race, I thought we'd have a little one-off special livery for the race. So we've gone for this really awesome kind of Space Galaxy livery that we actually, there was a very similar one in last year's game as well. And even better is the personalized sticker we've got, because we've got a keep calm and no heroics into DEVOTE personal sticker. There's new stickers in the game that you can stick onto the inside of the halo. You can see there's a couple there, but with the podium pass, I've unlocked this special one, which, fair play to Cody's, it's really good humor. Obviously, this comes off, you know, this meme in the F1 community pretty much came and stemmed from, I think, that, you know, Survive video I did a couple of years ago now, I think, where, you know, I brought up the fact that they just kept saying, keep calm and no heroics into DEVOTE, please. And it's now become an actual sticker in the game, so I'm quite chuffed about that. That's really cool. And yeah, so we're going to have that on the car, and that's going to remind us to not do that, obviously, on lap 1. So we're going through then the activity timeline and trying to fit in as much as we can that's going to be useful for our team. It's hard to kind of pick when you've got such a little amount of time between 2 races like this. You know, we had so much time in between Bahrain and Spain on the calendar, whereas here, Spain to Monaco, only 7 days to choose from there. So we had to go with, well, I went with a 5-day event to try and boost the acclaim for the team, because I think acclaim is so important. We're still only level 4 on the acclaim level. For level 5, we unlock a new sponsor finally. So I want to get to that ASAP, because that just means we earn a little bit more money and we can start investing that in HQ facilities. But in terms of the R&D then, we've got 1,000 R&D points then at the moment before we actually advance the time to go towards the Monaco Grand Prix. So we should probably try and purchase something. Now, I was debating whether we go with durability, because already we saw at Spain, clearly the internal combustion engine and even most of the parts are all wearing out. But unfortunately on durability, I have to upgrade the gearbox first to unlock the rest of the R&D tree, because there is still basically like an R&D tree per se underneath the new UI they're using here. So I have to unlock essentially that to then unlock other bits of the durability R&D. So I was a bit hesitant, but at the same time we kind of need to, because clearly there were some issues with the wear, and I think it's got to something to do with the quick practice. I think definitely, you know, be wary. If you use the quick practice, I think it definitely does wear your engine out more than it would if you just did it. But at the same time, obviously, that's the kind of balance you may be picking of, you know, saving that time. But as we're talking about what to purchase, an upgrade that did come through, though, is finally that major chassis weight reduction. Remember, that failed on the car last episode. That's come in now. That's massive for us. That will improve the acceleration, the handling responsiveness mid-corner, the nimbleness of the car, everything we kind of need around Monaco. So that's a massive aid, and it's really good to see that come in. I was then tempted by the tyre wear, because we've spoken about the tyre model being very different in this year's game, and the tyre wear is much higher on F1 2021. So we've gone ahead and purchased, actually, we spent half our R&D points on a tyre upgrade on the roll dampers there, because I think tyre wear, it affects every race. You know, other upgrades, drag reduction, things like that, that may help, you know, more, some, you know, a couple of races more so than others, but tyre wear is going to be there for every single race. And on top of that, in the end, I just bit the bullet, and we also bought the gearbox upgrade. We have to upgrade the gearbox durability to unlock everything else, so I thought you may as well do it now and take take the plunge. So it's tough in these early stages when you've got such finite amount of resources with the resource points and money, because it's really difficult to choose and to know what to do and what best to do, because you can see a lot of stuff in hindsight in later seasons, but when you're here fresh on the game, that's part of the challenge, and we just don't know. So we're kind of stepping into the unknown. I'm trying to use my experience from the previous F1 game, but the mechanics are slightly different, the car's slightly different, and the way things are is slightly different because of the career settings we've got, where we've got a reduced rate for everything, and the AI have an increased rate to make things even more challenging for us. So when it came to spending $2.58 million here on HQ facilities, we've gone for quality control, 1.2 million there, kind of matches the build time we've got on the chassis side of things. I think those two go in tandem really well. And then I thought, you know what, because we need to get into the durability tree and get into that R&D system a bit more once we've got that gearbox done, let's buy the build time. Let's do a very un-aarava thing, and let's actually invest in durability early days, or full stop, really, to be honest. If you guys have been watching me for a while, I usually neglect it, but it seems like on this year's game, I don't know if it's, an early kind of misbalance of the wear, or if that's the intended wear that Cody's wanted with quick practice and stuff like that, but at the moment, I'm seeing my engine wear out quite quickly, so we're going to have to try and rectify that. We're trying to invest in that department, at the detriment to maybe pure performance. Obviously, I did say I'd want a fast car that just breaks down, but obviously, it's not going to be a quick car if it's too worn out to even perform. So, there's a difference there, basically. So, we have to make sure that the components are actually able to give us the performance. But going into Monaco, we do see a slight improvement. You can see into Spain, we did plateau a bit, and so now we've kind of re-overtaken Alfa Romeo, as it were, and kind of stayed ahead of them by a little mark and made a little small gain towards AlphaTauri and Alpine, but they're still a little bit away ways, and already I'm seeing the progress difference. I think the sliders that we chose, that you guys voted for the reduced rating for everything for me and for the boosted AI, I can just see already in comparison to maybe F1 2020 the trajectory we're on. I think it really is going to take the whole season for us just to maybe even catch Alpine and AlphaTauri maybe in this chart, which is a long slog, but that's exactly sometimes how the cookie crumbles in Formula 1 as well in real time. So as we go on then into the race weekend, we're going to delve into that quick practice once again and try and do the best job we can of trying to obtain as many R&D points, and then obviously trying to get as many boosters as we can. And at the end of it all, adding up the acclaim as well we gained over the course of that, we are so close now to level 5 on the acclaim level. Literally, a smidgen, basically. That's like, one overtake in the race maybe, and we got the level 5 acclaim. But going into qualifying just beforehand, having to switch over the components, but you can see what I mean about the first column that we've got there on the left-hand side. Well and truly, I think that's kind of a bit too much wear, so like I said, I don't know if that's Cody's intentions. I personally feel like there needs to be a rebalancing. I think it's wearing out way too quickly whilst you do quick practice, and I think that's something that maybe needs to be flagged up with Cody's, and if it continues, if it's a pattern I'm going to continue to see in the series, I myself will also be trying to message them and kind of let them know about that, because I do think, yeah, I get it, maybe have a little bit more wear at the start of my team. You're a fresh team in Formula 1, but there's a certain point where it's a little bit too much, and I think we're already starting to see that is there a little bit. I like a challenge, but there's just, being ridiculous and then having a challenge, basically. But we head into, then, Saturday for qualifying. The most important Saturday, maybe, of the entire year when it comes to, not being able to maybe overtake that much in the race. And it's raining. It's raining. Our first outing to Monaco on this game, and it's raining at the start of qualifying. What is it with us and rain in Monaco? This happened last year. On F1 2020, we also had rain. I think in the race, didn't we, as well? In quali and the race. I don't think there's any rain forecast for the race, thankfully, but we've got intermediates to kick us off. So very gingerly, sheepishly, treading water around the circuit and trying to feed ourselves into the circuit. Monaco, it's all about, we hear so much about in real life about dialing into the circuit. Well, it's so much harder to dial in when it's wet and slippery and you're on edge, and literally the tiniest blip of the throttle could send your rear end outward. And definitely on this year's game, with how sensitive the car is a bit now with the tyre model and how slidey the rear end can be at times, I think in the wet, it is a challenge. You've got to be careful. At the same time, though, equally with the new handling model, I also think it's actually easier to catch the car now as well when you do start sliding maybe. So it's got a nice ebb and flow, I feel, for now, as much as it can do around Monaco, I guess. And at the moment, we're just getting through some consecutive laps. You know, the fuel is coming down and the time is coming down. I'm also just getting way more confident with the car already through every corner. And also, I think it's also starting to slightly rain a little bit less. So the track's speeding up a little bit, and we gain nearly 4 seconds here on the 3rd lap, which I kind of thought was a bit ridiculous, but maybe that's because that's how much fuel I put in the car. I put enough fuel in for 3 laps in a row, so maybe that is to be expected. So we go up into, well, at the moment, it's P4. By the end of this session, though, we go down the order as expected, but we get through. We get through into Q2 for the first time this season. We're through into the second part of qualifying, and it's at Monaco. Kind of to be expected, because Monaco is one of those places where the driver can make way more of a difference than the car. But even Ilott qualified really well here in the wet. P19, that's not too bad, to be honest. I thought he would be way down the order. We know the F2 teammate always does quite poorly, but that's really not that bad. And we've made it through with George Russell, so myself and Georgie Boy through into Q2, surprising the masses, the fans. And now it's about time to see what we can do in the second part of qualifying. This is a very unique position to be in, and what a way to debut the one-off livery. And, you know, the sticker says no heroics into Sainte DEVOTE. Well, maybe it's time for some heroics into that corner, because we've got to try and send it and try and do as well as we can to qualify as high as we can at Monaco, because this is a race where we know it's so difficult to overtake. So as high as we can get is going to really help us out. But, of course, I do understand where the car is and that, you know, the wet is a balancer. The wet, you know, sometimes you can do something special and out-qualify where your car should be. In the dry, there's nowhere to hide, and so it may not be the fairy tale we want. And also, that first lap was a little bit wet still. There was a few wet patches around. So at the moment, P16, but we are going to improve on our time. About 6 to 7 tenths maybe gained in this first to second sector alone. So the track is obviously very green after the rain, so it's going to get quicker and quicker as we go on, almost dancing the car through the chicane, the swimming pool section there, into La Rascasse, then the right-hander, lock up on the front right, get the nose really turned in, then try and pick the line pin perfect, a little bit wide, understeer kicking in, and a lot of oversteer as well. It's a mistake we didn't need there, probably lost a good 3 tenths. But we're up into P14, ahead of Sebastian Vettel and Carlos Sainz right now in the Ferrari and Aston Martin. They're on the mediums. They've now gone on to softs, though, so it may be over. The dream of out-qualifying an Aston Martin and Ferrari right now in the 3rd episode alone may be over, because they've gone on to softs on the top left. We gain 4 tenths further in Sector 2 to 3, and we're going to gain a bit more by not making a mistake on the final bend across the line. And I think it was only P15 there in the top right, as others were setting a time. Those that maybe tried to be clever and get through in the medium tyres eventually bailed out and went on the softs. So in the end, it's P15 and it's P16 for George Russell. So pretty much as it was in Q1, myself and George Russell. But still, we're close to Tsunoda on the grid. There just seems to be, you know, Gasly's doing a madness in the AlphaTauri. He got a podium last episode, obviously. But Yuki was obviously a little bit off the pace compared to him. And we're getting close. And, you know, it's really good that we're, you know, badgering him and also the likes of maybe Ocon in the first 2 races, because that's where we want to be. We want to be fighting AlphaTauri and Alpine in the standings, basically, and in the R&D chart. That's the closest team we're chasing, basically. But it's a happy day. I've got to be happy about that. Obviously, I would like to be higher, of course, at Monaco, and after getting to Q2, you want to do better. But that's where the car is, and to be fair to us, we actually just did a great job to get through into the second part of qualifying, full stop. So let's go to the grid, to the race. It's going to be difficult, but it's Monaco. Let's see if we can pull something special out the bag with that special one-off livery as well.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That was how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean Sea. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. We're on the French Riviera once more this weekend at the 2-mile-long Circuit de Monaco. The cars will climb around 40 metres up the hill, past the casino, and then descend downwards towards the harbour through Sector 2. It's a very short run from pole position to the first of the 19 corners at Sainte DEVOTE, and don't expect to see much overtaking here today. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo and Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Vettel and Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Tsunoda, the owner driver and Russell, Raikkonen, Mazepin, Callum Eilert and Mick Schumacher. Stroll, they've taken a grid penalty. Giovinazzi, Latifi and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
So, if you watched the grid sequence there, grid penalties for Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly means we are elevated to P13 on this Monaco grid. So, we have got maybe a slight chance, you know. We have a good enough start. We could maybe, just maybe get into the points from the get-go. And then, being Monaco, we could just park the car on the apex and try and see it home, basically. But at least that's the hopeful plan. We'll see. But in terms of the strategy then, I was intrigued by the original strategies here. It wanted me to start on hard tyres, which I didn't agree with. So, we're going to start on mediums, like pretty much everyone else is going to. And I assume a lot of us will be trying a one-stop outside the top 10, because that have the track position. Whether the top 10 do the two-stop at the bottom, we don't know. On last year's game, the top 10 always did a two-stop, and it meant that one-stop was very, very overpowered around Monaco. But I don't know. It's a different game, slightly different AI. I think they do think on the fly a bit more, the AI, on this year's game. So let's see. This is the real first test to see if anything's changed at Monaco in terms of how the race plays out. And if it does change, then it actually may be a bit more of a mundane race for us if there aren't more people doing a two-stop for us to jump with the one less stop. But either way, as I said, first lap, we've got to surely give it. From P13, we've got a cracking chance to maybe, just maybe, find ourselves in P10 or higher in the opening stage of the race. So here we go then to 5 red lights to the Monaco Grand Prix. For the very first time on this game and career mode, the duel in the Formula 1 calendar comes a little bit earlier in the season. But lights are out and we're underway. It's a bit of a slow start versus Yuki Tsunoda, but can we go for some heroics? That's Sandoval round the outside, big dive bomb on Yuki and trying to thread the car through, and we pick up some beautiful traction round the outside of Fernando Buddy Alonso in the Alpine up into P11. He's still fighting us, but we have the elbows out a little bit, we have the better racing line, and we're up into P11. 2 moves done into 1, and that was very much heroics in Sandoval. Actually, you know, we did very, very well, and we now got the infamous hairpin shot at Monaco. I always like to include that in the video on the slowest corners in Formula 1. We almost, did you see that? We had a little look at Ocon. He was going so slow, I thought, hang on a minute, can I actually overtake him in the hairpin? That would be quite something, but no, we have to settle down for P11. But I think we've done fantastically. We didn't even get a great start. Tsunoda very much cut across us and actually beat us, you know, off the line, and then we just made a very nice dive, found the right racing line where Alonso got caught up on the curb, and so we find ourselves in this position now, looking at P10, looking at the one championship point, half the points we already have right now, which are 2 from Bahrain. We're looking at them right there, Esteban Ocon, but it's so hard to find any kind of room to really even suss out where on earth I'm going to make this overtake, and knowing that the Alpine, well and truly at the moment, is still the quicker car, very much so, and I can tell that because I'm not really on the back of Ocon. I'm not, you know, there are parts of the circuit where I'm getting close, but then others where he's pulling away very much so, and now Alonso is pressurizing me way more than I'm pressurizing Ocon. The back end starting to slide out a little bit here and there as we get a bit greedy, trying to push the limits of the car, and Alonso is getting closer every time we make kind of those small little errors, and Ocon's getting away, you know, 1 second the gap. We're kind of just within DRS, but Alonso is very much well within 6/10. But at the moment, leading the way then is Valtteri Bottas in first place, Hamilton in second, but obviously Bottas got some horrendous bad luck last time out, so let's see if we can actually finish it up in first place at Monaco. Then it's followed by Sergio Perez, surprisingly in third place, ahead of Max Verstappen then. So I don't know how that's happened. I didn't actually check what the qualifying was, so I don't know if Perez started ahead of Verstappen on the grid. And then you've got the McLaren sandwiching the 2 Ferraris, tail-ended by Lando Norris in the second McLaren. Then you've got Aston Martin, and then Alpine, Ocon, myself, and then Fernando Alonso. You can see that shimmy and shake on the rear as we go through the final bend, trying to push on, just honestly trying to survive, really, because I at this stage now, I'm not even looking at Ocon. I'm kind of looking looking behind me because Alonso is very much now up my chuff as we go down towards Mirabeau. He has a little look around the outside. Alonso actually tried it. Fair play to the AI, you know. I've seen that for sure so far on the preview build and what I've played of the full game now. The AI this year, they do kind of go for those chances you sometimes didn't really think they would go for on last year's game. Just those small little tiny half looks. They'll go for it. And, you know, sometimes if you get too scared from that half look, it could go wrong for you, just like it would obviously in real life sometimes, or it does for the player versus the AI. So good to see that, but not so great in terms of just me surviving up here in P11. But now we've got the first round of pit stops then. You can see Norris is in, Perez as well. So this is now where the test is. You know, some of these guys, are they doing a two-stop? And if they are, is there any way we can hold any of them up and hold track position? Because now we're up into P9, 3 more overtakes done, and we're up into P6. Obviously, we're yet to pit. We're on mediums. Those guys were on soft compounder tyres, having to start on that compound since they got through into the top 10 shootout. But Alonso, look at the way he's right up my gearbox here. This is becoming difficult. And you know, the car, it felt so bad at this point in the race. And I thought, is this the tyre wear? Is this surely the tyre wear, like kicking in this much? Is that how bad it is? Because I was really, I was dropped by Ocon. He pulled away so much. And Alonso was all at the back of me. But as we come into the pit lane, I then quickly realised why I felt so bad. Look at this. My team are changing my front wing. I knocked my front wing somewhere and I had no idea about the damage because the heads-up display on the bottom right didn't tell me anything. It must have been such a subtle tap somewhere that it wasn't enough for the heads-up display to indicate to me that there was damage. But at the same time, there was enough where it was hurting my performance, because clearly, you know, you saw there from, you know, lap 1 and the first 3 laps to lap 11 there, what it was or whatever, you know, Alonso is right on the map, pretty much pushing me through into the casino square, and I was so baffled at why that was happening, because I didn't feel like the tyre wear was that bad. Turns out I had a bit of damage, so that was frustrating. It was a bitter pill to swallow. It was not only am I annoyed that we knocked the wing somewhere and didn't realise that, 2, I've just wasted a couple of seconds changing a front wing now that I obviously have to change because I needed the extra performance. But I think it means now, I think surely we're going to lose the position to Alonso, which is going to be so annoying because I was so happy about getting the Alpine, at least one of them, at the start of the race. What's done is done. Unfortunately, I have to just deal with it basically, but it seems like definitely the damage model is a lot more sensitive than it ever was on F1 2020, but we've just got to now get on with our race, and you know, the race at hand is with Schumacher at the moment. He's on a hard compound tyre though, so much slower. We use a lot of ERS up the hill. Round the outside we go at Casino Square. The German comes back at us though, and actually is fighting for position. Fair play, and we actually have to, there's actually a lot of hard work for us to do to get the move done, but we're up into P18, and now we've got some clean air to chase after the pack of Giovinazzi, Ilott. We've got to get past these guys though, because they're not racing us. These guys all start on hard compound tyres. They're out of sync of the race I'm in, and we need to get past them as quickly as possible. We're losing time here, and Ilott's going so slow that we go around the outside of Giovinazzi. Not quite the infamous Raskas dive bomb there, and I don't know if we'll be able to pull it off in this race, to be honest, which I'm kind of sad about, because we always sometimes are able to find some way of pulling off at least one in every season we do on every F1 game, basically, ever since I started doing that dive bomb move. But we go around the outside. I'll take it around the outside of Raskas there. Ilott was so slow coming into the pit lane on lap 21. I don't know what was going on there, but we get past him and Giovinazzi, and now we're moving on and seeing where Alonso and Tsunoda are. Well, Alonso, he's 5.5 up the road. That is so demoralising to see him that far up the road. It's just frustrating, but, you know, we can't do much. It was our own fault for tapping the front wing somewhere on the lap. And now later into the race, lap 28, 6 laps have gone by, and Alonso's built the gap to 13.6, just showing really we were holding him up in the first stint. That Alpine is so much quicker, and I'm getting lapped here now by the 2 Mercedes cars. Hamilton now is the one that leads then, so Bottas lost the lead somehow. I think maybe in the strategy play or undercut or what. Hamilton now in the lead, ahead of Bottas, then ahead of the 2 Red Bull cars, but being lapped by the lead is, it's something that we're going to have to, you know, be used to. That's going to happen a couple of times depending on the race and the situation, really. And, you know, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be obviously so satisfying when we're not in a situation where we're getting lapped and we're the ones lapping other people like the Mercedes guys did to us. But at the moment now, more pressing matters at hand. Lap 32, and Stroll is coming at us. Obviously, remember, he got a grid penalty, so he's trying to make his way back through this race in a much quicker car. And we're having a really great scrap here. We're actually going to give it to him and try to maintain the position. But in the end of it, the Justin nearly put us in the wall. The Canadian really went deep air into his line at Mirabeau, and if I hadn't just kind of slammed on the brake and kind of cut in, I would have just been straight into the wall there at Mirabeau. So Lance Stroll getting a little bit over-aggressive there with his move, but obviously he's frustrated to see this new team on the block, being ahead of him clearly. But, we're down to P13 then in the end of it. We gave him a good fight, to be honest. I'm kind of proud of how much of a fight we gave him. And in the chaos of that, Pierre Gasly retired, you may have seen there, as we are battling Lance Stroll. And then George Russell got into a kerfuffle of some kind. I think with Tsunoda and the Alfa Romeo or something, and he's lost his wing, and the Williams car's trying to trundle on, and in the end of it, he's actually going to retire then on this side. So that's also something new. I've never seen that. Usually AI, they try to make it the end and, just change their front wing. So maybe now, with the extra damage, maybe we don't know, maybe he got some damage on his barge board or, end plate or whatever, and the team decided to retire him, but for whatever reason, he did retire. So a bit of chaos there, but it didn't help us at all, because those guys were already behind us. So it's another really tough Grand Prix, but at the same time, P13, considering where we are on the R&D chart, that's actually still a pretty decent race, and from what we could do from where we were with the damage on the front on the first stint, it's a hard one to call. I wanted more, but we just couldn't get it today. It's where we are. We still got work to do, clearly, going to the next one, but also some more stuff learnt about the game.
They've done it then. They've won here in Monaco with an emphatic performance and a victory they can be proud of for years to come. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So in the end of it, once again, Valtteri Bottas can't convert a race lead to an actual win here as Hamilton wins the Monaco Grand Prix. He comes in second place, the Finn does, and in third place was actually Sergio Perez. Verstappen did not find a way past his number 2 teammate there. Surprising, but Hamilton reigns supreme at Monaco then and makes up for losing out on the win versus Verstappen in Spain. But for us, P13, when you look at it like that, that top 14, we didn't do too bad. In where our car is, where we are at the moment with the start of the My Team series, only episode 3, that's not too shabby. He actually did really well. P18 ahead of 2 Williams cars, 2 Alpha Tauris. Obviously, those 2 did DNF, to be fair. So actually, really, in reality, he got what he, probably should have got, really. So I don't actually know what I'm talking about. But in P13, no points. P11 would have been no points. So I say again, really, does it really matter in the end? Maybe not, but obviously for pride's sake, it would have been cool to keep ahead of Alonso and maybe have a good go at Ocon, but the damage didn't let us. So we're still then P8 in the championship, 2 points that we had at Bahrain, holding us ahead of Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas, and, the other kind of established midfield teams, they are pulling away a bit with the points. So I'm hoping that we can pick up some pace in the next couple episodes when we go into the heart of the European season, and hopefully we can try and annoy Alpha Tauri and Alpine a little bit more in the championship and in the races than we are at the moment. But guys, if you did enjoy the very first Monaco Grand Prix then on this game and this career mode series, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed. At the moment, daily uploads of the My Team series and Breaking Point, so get subbed if you want all that good stuff. Till the next one, guys, hope you enjoy your day. Goodbye.